The concrete road held Raymond Santos as he wobbled on the street, vision blurred and head ringing. It was 9:40 in the evening. The young man just left his friend's house after a long session of beer drinking. He thought about what his parents will do to him when he see his drunken state. Raymond excused himself for a school project, not drinking alcohol with his homies. Maybe they're gonna ground him with their mixed lectures about drinking alcohol and gateway drugs. The usual, he claimed to himself. The surroundings was silent, with the chirping of crickets and the blow of air, breaking the tranquility the night brought. He ruffled his hair as he let out a yawn and continued his trip to his house. Every now and then, cars would pass by as he sought on his dreaded trek back home, onto his nice and soft bed. After his parents scolded him as they saw his drunken condition and the smell of beer and vodka that was glued to his body. He passed a few houses with the owners already asleep, while some were smoking, hanging out, and using their cell phones. Other convenience stores were closing, with the sound of their metal gates ascending and locks clicking, serving their purpose to secure the building. As he arrived on the terminal, he hurriedly ran, as the last jeepney was already starting their engine. But, with his hard situation, his intoxicated body didn't do him well. As the jeepney left with a couple of passengers in its seats, Raymond yelled, "Hey! Stop!" while waving his hands in despair. But the driver seemed deaf, as the jeepney went on the road, until it was a spectacle of light in the distance. "Damn it!" he cursed to himself as he fell down on the asphalt, raging with hopelessness. "That was the last transport to my barangay," he said to himself. Raymond had no other choice but to walk to his house, a few kilometers and at least 15 minutes of trudging along the road. As he carried along with his plan, he crossed empty roads filled with trees, cars, bushes, and the occasional people walking by, and houses that seemed to be inactive. Contemplating his circumstance, his legs felt like jelly, as he was struggling to be awake, and his intoxicated body didn't give him much encouragement either. He should have just hitched a ride with his buddy when he asked him to, back when they were leaving their friend's house. Now, he was just filled with regret, asking himself why did he reject his companion's offer. As he stepped on a quiet road filled with bushes and trees on the sides, he heard footsteps behind him. But it wasn't footsteps, it was something more. It wasn't human, but it sounded like one. The hopping sounds were trying to sound humane and normal, but failed at its task. Echoing with an unnerving pattern, Raymond discovered in horror that it was synchronized with his own stride of his feet. He suddenly felt nauseous, but he knew it wasn't from his drinks earlier. It was a feeling he never felt it before. It twisted his insides with such force while blurring his vision. He felt so sick. He fell down on the stony driveway, curled up and feeling sick and bileless. Raymond was sweating buckets and shaking uncontrollably, with his sickening feeling taking over his nerves. He never noticed the footsteps behind him, muffled. A figure emerged from Raymond's eyesight. It was a man wearing a black hoodie while covering its face. It just stood there, staring at him. Raymond felt so much fear flowing through his body. He went numb, and no voice came out from his mouth as he tried to scream for help. Tears were flowing down his face, and he lay there, motionless, while the brooding eyes of the stalker were still directed in Raymond, as he was feeling his burning stare. He guessed it was a man, from its tall physique. Seconds passed, but to Raymond it felt like eternity. The hooded stalker's voice came to life. "Come, Raymond." Two words that will forever haunt Raymond's life. Forever. His body escaped its numb condition and the fear-struck teen ran. He ran until he couldn't feel his legs anymore. He ran as his lungs were screaming for him to stop. He ran as the footsteps followed him, ringing his ears as it emitted fear through Raymond's veins. He just ran. The minutes passed that seemed a millennia as Raymond finally fell down on the floor. His body is so tired he couldn't even breathe properly. His lungs were so sore that it felt it would explode. His head was ringing so much, with crumbs of fright still lingering on his mind. He stood up, realizing his pursuer was gone. He immediately grabbed his phone and called his mom. But it wasn't his mom who answered. Instead, it was a kind and gentle voice of a man who he didn't know. Hello? Who is this? My name's Raymond Santos. I want to speak to Felicity Santos, please. She's my mom. I'm very sorry, sir, but I don't think you can speak to her right now. She's grieving over the death of her child. I'm a nurse here in the hospital where her kid was rushed to, but he didn't make it. What? He said with such force, his head rang in pain. Lucas is dead? Asked Raymond, holding back his sob as the realization that his little brother was gone. No, sir. It's Raymond Santos, her teenage son. Raymond dropped his phone. The impact shattered the screen of his cheap gadget, and he lay there. He was confused and scared, but he managed to process it all. Raymond was now only a remnant, treading on the living world, destined to be collected by death. The jeepney driver ignored him because he didn't see him. Only people with special clairvoyant abilities can communicate with the dead. The stalking man that followed him was Death, beckoning him to accept his fate and guide him across on the other side. Somewhere within his vision, the man appeared out of nowhere again. Now, he wasn't struck by fear. Raymond still wanted to have time with his family, friends, and his pet dog, but he knew better. He looked at the man, uttering his last words before fleeing into the unknown. I'm ready.